3 more.
Just failed in the waiting room. There, you got me.
I've got him in. And a happy new year.
Well, happy coming guys back to work.
He'll be on here.
You say the ordinance where I changed, that ordinance, I changed it from 30 to 100.
Well, they're gonna make an amendment. It's already went out in print.
Okay.
And we're gonna make, I'll ask for amendment to change that, and the rest of it is as written. Got about 2 more minutes. We like 2. So maybe they'll get on here in the next minute or so, and then we'll start the meeting right at 7 o'clock.
How long before we can start having our meetings up here?
I'm hoping we can start having them next month. Yeah, if we go with 9 people, us is 12, they've said that you can have a meeting of more than 10 as long as you're spaced. So we can space them out 6 feet, space out these, 6 feet, probably have 2 in the front. Get it.
We need to make sure, do we need?
I'll sure be glad when it goes back to in person.
Do we need to make sure they've had their shot or they've had an opportunity to get
To get what?
their vaccine?
I think everybody knows that they're fending for themselves. They have to get online to get it. But I mean, I'd like to see everybody have it by then. There's happy.
Mona,
Yes.
Joe Trigg is trying to log on. He's having issues, but he is awake and coming.
Okay. Well, if it suits everybody, we'll wait another minute or so.
Said he was getting onto a different computer trying to get on that way.
Okay.
Tell him if he wants to drive up here, he can, if he can't get on. Because there's
Okay.
just 3 of us sitting here. We'll wait for him to get here if he wants to do that, if he can't get on.
That work for all of us, Mayor?
The what?
Does that work for all of us? If we drove up, can we get there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It'd suit me if we all were up here.
okay.
I think it probably by April, we should be able, we've still got the seats separated out here 6 feet apart for anybody from the media or anybody that wants to be here. So I'm thinking the next relaxation on these CDC guidelines will come about the 5th of next month. and that's on a Monday. That's the first Monday, so maybe they might relax it to where we could have our regular meetings back again. It would be a real lifesaver if we could. Chastity, has he made any contact?
Never responded to the
Okay.
text that I sent him that said, drive up if you can't get in.
It's a minute after. If it's okay with everybody, we'll wait another minute. And if he gets on, then we'll bring him in. If he doesn't, we'll start the meeting. And if he shows up up here, then we can mark him tardy and go ahead and include him in the meeting.
Does he have a key to get in the building?
No, but we'll go down there and one of us will go let him in. If he shows up.
I'll go there.
Said the computer was logging in. He'd be here as fast as he could, but he understood if you needed to go ahead.
All right. Is it okay for everybody if we wait one more minute? All right. If it's okay for everybody, we can start a minute late or 2 minutes late. You got 2 after? At 3 after, we'll go ahead and start.
This cell phone's right, I've got 2 there.
Watch what I've got here. We'll give him another minute. All right, if he gets logged in, well, we'll put him in there as here. But for the time being, in case he has a problem, let's go ahead and start the meeting. Call the meeting to order. And let's stand with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Or since you're at home, you can sit and do it, I guess. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Norris, would you give us an invocation, please?
Would you pray with me?
Yes.
Okay, bow your head. Father, we pause just for a moment. We want to welcome you into this meeting tonight. We want to embrace what you'll be able to do for us as we look to you for wisdom and guidance. We trust that. We thank you for your faithfulness and for your love through Jesus Christ our Lord. We ask for blessings upon our community and our nation, unity through peace and kindness and the attributes of the Holy Spirit. Be with us tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to serve and the responsibility that goes with that. We thank you that you can put us together with different ideas. Help us to launch out in this year with faith and unity as we work together. Thank you for all the workers, all the families that make up our town, because we truly know you're behind it all. In Christ's name, amen.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Benel,
Present.
Gaunt,
Yes, ma'am.
I need to be able to see you.
Do what?
I need to be able to see you. There you
All
go.
right, can you see me?
I can now.
Okay, all right.
Honeycutt,
Here.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry,
Here.
Neal,
Here.
Norris,
Here.
Trigg, Witcher.
Here.
Okay, the first item here, we have, you have before you the minutes of the special call via remote video council meeting on February the 22nd, 2021. After looking at those minutes, if there's no amendment or corrections, I'll accept a motion to accept them as presented.
Motion by Benel.
Have a motion by Councilman Benel and a second.
Second by Lowry.
Second by Councilman Lowry. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Minutes are accepted. First item of business is second reading of ordinance 2121 an ordinance changing the number of council members on the subcommittees from 5 to 4.
And as I read these, if I'm not coming across clearly, if you're not understanding me, or if it's not loud enough, I need you to let me know, because that's the only way I know how to change. And I'm going to hold a little closer this microphone tonight and try to be a little more clear with my reading. City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, and ordinance changing the number of council members on the city council subcommittees from 5 to 4 members. That whereas the number of city council members on the Glasgow City Council has reduced from 12 members to 9 members in the last election cycle, and whereas there previously was authorized 5 council members on the Glasgow City Council subcommittees, and now 5 members constitutes a majority of the city council and is an improper situation. Now therefore be it ordained by the city of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section number 1, that there shall be no more than 4 city council members on any Glasgow City Council subcommittee. Section number 2, that Mayor of Glasgow is empowered and directed to complete any documents on behalf of the city of Glasgow, Kentucky necessary to implement this action. Section number 3, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, at testimony Simmons, City Clerk. First reading February 22nd, 2021. Second reading March 8th, 2021.
Having heard the second reading of this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Have a motion
Second.
by Councilman Witcher and a second
Second, Norris.
by Norris. May I have a roll call vote on this being the second reading, please?
Benel,
Yes.
Gaunt,
Yes, ma'am.
Honeycutt,
Yes.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Trigg's not able to get on yet. Witcher,
Yes.
Give us just a second. I think Joe's about to get on. Joe, is that you on?
All right, I'm in.
Okay, all right, good deal. We've done the reading on,
Are you muted?
Yeah, we got it.
okay, we've done the reading, Joe, on second reading of the number of council people back from 5 to 4 on each committee. And to give you a brief overview, we had some councilmen that was serving on 7 committees, some on 6, some on 5, some on 4, and one that was on 3. So what we've done is we've taken those that was on multiple committees and taken them off of a committee or 2. And now I think the most is 5. 2 councilmen's got 5, and the majority is of 4. But the ones that are coming off of any committee, Honeycutt, we've got you coming off the public safety. That puts you back to 5. Martin, we've got you coming off infrastructure and strategic planning. That puts you back to 5. Chastity, we've got you coming off of the finance committee. That puts you back to 4 or 5. And then Happy, we've got you coming off the parks.
Actually, Mayor, that puts me on 2 active committees.
Well, the plaza, all those committees are counted the same as a committee.
Right, Plaza and Rec Department and the Park Steering Committee. The other one that's listed actually doesn't exist anymore.
I'll go back through that then and see if somebody else has less. I had you with 4, counting coming off of this, but I may be wrong. We'll look at that one and to make sure, but all the rest of them, we went through today and tried to get them down to a operational count. But that may be, if that's correct, then we'll take somebody else off the finance that's already on 5 and pull them down to 4. But we'll go through that at a later date when we've got more time to review it. Second ordinance reading, second item is second ordinance reading, accepting Pinseeker Way as a city street.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, an ordinance accepting Pinseeker Way as a city street. That whereas the city engineer has inspected Pinseeker Way for inclusion as a city street in the city of Glasgow, said roadway being approximately 396 feet in length, and whereas the city engineer has determined that Pinseeker Way meets and complies with standards for construction of streets in the city of Glasgow. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the city of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section number 1, Pinseeker Way, which is approximately 396 feet in length, 23 feet in width, and on 50 feet right of way, is hereby accepted and approved as a city street. A copy of same is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section number 2, that the mayor of Glasgow is empowered and directed to complete any documents on behalf of the city of Glasgow, Kentucky, necessary to implement this action. Section number 3, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, February 22nd, 2021. Second reading, March 8th, 2021.
Having heard the second reading of this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion by Benel.
I have a motion by Benel and a second
Second by Witcher.
by Witcher. Be a roll count vote for this ordinance.
Benel,
Yes.
Gaunt,
Yes, ma'am.
Honeycutt,
Yes.
Kirkpatrick, got it on mute, Marna.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
It's okay. Lowry,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Second reading passes. Next item is second reading of an ordinance amending the Glasgow zoning ordinance, rezoning property at 101 Hilltopper Way and 647 Roseville Road.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, an ordinance amending Glasgow zoning ordinance, rezoning property located at 101 Hilltopper Way and 647 Roseville Road, containing 15.213 acres more or less, from R1 Low Density Residential District and B3 Highway Service Business District to I1 Light Industrial District. It appearing that number 1, Spantech LLC, owner and applicant, has requested a zoning change for the property located at 101 Hilltopper Way and 647 Roseville Road, containing 15.213 acres more or less. A schematic drawing of said property subject to rezoning is attached here to as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, a trial type due process hearing concerning said proposed zoning change was held on January 19th at 7 p.m. by the Joint City County Planning and Zoning Commission, resulting in the recommendation by the commission that the property hereinafter described be rezoned from R1 Low Density Residential and B3 Highway Service Business to I1 Light Industrial classification. Number 3, copies of the findings and recommendations of the Joint City County Planning and Zoning Commission have been forwarded to the Glasgow City Council, which are hereby adopted by the Glasgow City Council and are attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B and incorporated herein by reference. Now, therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section number 1, the findings and recommendations of the Joint City County Planning and Zoning Commission, copies of which are attached here to as Exhibit B, are hereby approved in all respects. Section number 2, the property located at 101 Hilltopper Way and 647 Roseville Road, containing approximately 15.213 acres more or less, be rezoned from R1 low density residential and B3 highway service business to I1 light industrial classification. The real property covered by this ordinance being more particularly described in Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 3. All future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Glasgow City Council on December 30th, 1991. Section 4, the Mayor of Glasgow is empowered and directed to complete any documents on behalf of the City of Glasgow necessary to implement this action. Section number 5, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, February 22nd, 2021. Second reading, March 8th, 2021.
Having heard this second reading, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
By Benel.
Councilman Witcher, and a second by
Benel.
Councilman Benel. This will also be a roll call vote, being the second reading.
Benel,
Yes.
Gaunt,
Yes, ma'am.
Honeycutt,
As a former employee of Stantec, I abstain from voting.
okay. Kirkpatrick,
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Second reading passes. Next item of business is ordinance rebate or retention of a reduction in occupational license. And before we have the city attorney read that, we were given the information on Monday to do this ordinance. And actually, we received a letter from the Economic Cabinet that was brought to us or emailed to us from Maureen Carpenter, to where on the 12th of, or thereabouts of February, they went back and asked for a modification. They were asking for a KBI program investment, Kentucky Business Investment, for 31 extra jobs. They have since changed that from 31 jobs to 100, and it has been, the contract or the application has been accepted through the Cabinet of Economic Development. So your ordinance reads on here 30 jobs, but and I think you got that letter when we got it, saying that they had applied for approximately $1 million increase and up to 100 jobs. So he can read this ordinance, but we're going to have to amend it to read 100 jobs instead of 30. So we'll have to do an amendment to it because it was printed as of 30. But he can read that, and then we'll explain anything that you want to know.
I'll read the ordinance, and then you can make a motion to approve it, second it, and then you can amend it to go up to 100, vote on the amendment, and then vote on the ordinance as amended. City of Glasgow Ordinance Number 2021, an ordinance permitting rebate or retention by Atcor Packaging Products LLC of 1% of the 1 3/4%, 1.75, as of July 1st, 2021, occupational license on certain wages paid to employees in the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, on the condition that Atcor Packaging Products LLC meets the criteria of its application for incentives under the Kentucky Business Investment Program. That whereas the City of Glasgow, Kentucky has adopted an occupational license fee ordinance providing for an occupational license fee of 1 3/4%, 1.75, as of July 1st, 2021 on certain wages paid to employees in the city of Glasgow, Kentucky. And whereas Atcor Packaging Products, LLC, hereinafter Atcor, has made an application for certain benefits and incentives available to it under the Kentucky Business Investment Program, KBI, as a result of its commitment to locate and create certain jobs and investment in Glasgow, Kentucky. And whereas the City Council of Glasgow, Kentucky is willing, as one of the incentives, to permit the retention by Atcor of 1% of the 1 3/4% occupational tax revenue to be paid by employees of said company for the 30 additional jobs to be added for this expansion, recognizing that said company's economic presence in the city would enhance the economic property of Glasgow, Kentucky, and that whereas the City Council of Glasgow, Kentucky wishes to demonstrate its willingness to accept the measure of retention of said payment or reduction by said company as described above. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section number 1, that the City of Glasgow, Kentucky takes notice of the application of Atcor for benefits and incentives available to said company under the KBI, including the application of said company for retention or rebate to said company of 1% of the above 1 3/4%, 1.75 occupational tax revenue to be paid by employees of said company. This ordinance pertains only to the additional 30 jobs being added for this expansion. Section number 2. The approval herein granted is subject to said company receiving final approval of its application and meeting all terms and conditions of its eligibility for said benefits under the KBI. Section number 3. That the City of Glasgow, Kentucky does hereby ordain that for 10 years subsequent to the date of receipt of the final approval of Atcor's application for benefits and eligibility under the KBI, said company receiving said final approval shall be entitled to retain or have rebated to it 1% of the 1 3/4, 1.75% occupational tax fee, which would otherwise be paid by employees of said company from their respective salaries and wages. The 1% retention or rebate shall not apply to other income or net profits of said company and shall apply only to occupational license fees on wages paid to employees in the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, sometimes otherwise referred to as payroll taxes. Section number 4. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, Mona Simmons, City Clerk, first reading, March 8th, 2021.
Having heard this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Norris and a second.
Second.
Second by Councilman, was that Honeycutt?
Yes.
Okay, and now at this point, I think is a point to where that we vote.
I'll make a motion to amend it from 31 to 100.
Okay,
That amendment appears on the designation of 30 additional jobs, which is in the third paragraph of the first page, and in the section number 1 on the first paragraph on the top of the second page. And those two designations would change from 30 additional jobs to 100 additional jobs, and that is the total breadth of your amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hey, Danny, could I ask you a question just for clarity? The 30 jobs that are getting the occupational tax reduction, that 30 goes to the 100 jobs, right?
Changes from 30 to 100. By this
Okay. And it's a 10-year sunset provision after 10 years, right?
Your sunset, and this is going to have a second, then we vote on the amendment first, and then we vote on the ordinance as amended.
Hey, Danny, I got a question. On the letter below, the attachment that's with it.
Let's do a second on this.
All right.
Second.
Okay, now, fire away.
All right, on the letter that's attached to it, it says something about the total number of jobs increased. Do they have 31 current employees and it's increasing by 100, or do they have 30 and it's doubling by 30? From the letter below.
they have several employees already, but they made the application back in January to go 31 more jobs. And then they go back in February and want to take that 31 extra jobs to 100 extra. They're going to have a total of probably 160 total, 150 total, something like that, after this is approved through the state. They already had somewhere between 25 and 35 working at that particular plant.
This is a whole new 100 on top of what was already there.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a question. When do we think that these jobs will go online?
It's set up for them to be pretty speedy. I think this application is supposed to be approved. It said that the project will expire in April 28, 2023, if not fully functional and online. So
The reason I asked that question in our first section where we refer to the occupational license fee at 1.75, which that occupational license fee, as we know, won't take effect to July 1, 2021. I didn't know if there need to be any reference to that date, being after July 1st, 2021.
it's not supposed to be, it'll take, at least according to Maureen, she can give more insight on it. But according to the first application, they were planning on having it in place before this year was out. And now that they went to 100, I feel assured that they're going to still try to get those online by the fall of this year. So it will definitely be after July 1 before we can do the book work and set it up.
Okay.
That's
Just
the reason we
clarify that so that we were talking about the correct occupational license fee.
That's the reason we put that 1 3/4 instead of 1 1/2 to reflect when that kicks in July 1.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, can I comment on that? It will not go in effect until after July.
That's what we just said.
Yeah, that's your target date. That's what's in my notes.
Any other questions? We'll vote on the amendment. Since it's a first reading, all those in favor of the amendment as read signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The amendment passes. Now we need to vote on the ordinance with the amendment in place, correct? All those in favor of the ordinance with the amendment in effect signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The first reading of that ordinance passes.
Did we not need a first and second on that?
We got a first and second
Yeah.
on the amendment.
Yeah.
First was Norris and the second was Honeycutt, I think. Is that correct?
No, the first on the amendment was Kirkpatrick, the second was Honeycutt.
That was to make the amendment.
Yeah, but there was a second on the motion too. I don't know who it was.
We had a first and second. Are you talking about on the original ordinance the way it was read?
Because we'll have to accept it with the amendment,
Well, we
correct?
still had to have a first and a second.
I was second on both, I think.
Okay,
Who made the motion on the ordinance?
Norris and
Might have
Honey.
been me, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Freddie did the motion and Honeycutt did the second.
And now we've done the ordinance, and that was with, amendment, and that was with Kirkpatrick and Honeycutt.
Honeycutt.
And then we voted on the ordinance as with the amendment, and it passed.
Okay.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance 2021, the city annual budget. And we can go by these line items the best we can once you read it.
The City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-2980, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-2966, the City of Glasgow annual budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. From the unappropriated general fund, $598,984.85 for grant expenditures, technical supplies, vehicles, equipment, and maintenance and repairs to receive $573,080.10 from grants, insurance contributions, reimbursement monies and to appropriate from the unappropriated sanitation and landfill fund $5,200 for HVAC equipment. Be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that the City of Glasgow annual budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2020 through 6/30/2021 is hereby amended as follows. Section number 1. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $328,408 to be transferred to the Administration Department Grants and Subsidies account 010-1110-8430 for small business grants. Section 2. There is hereby received the sum of $326,121 into the General Fund Administration Department Federal Monies account 010-1110-6325 from the Commonwealth of Kentucky COVID Relief Grant. Section number 3. There is hereby received the sum of $136,900 into the General Fund Administration Department Sale of Property account 010-1110-6630 for land sold. Section 4. There is hereby received the sum of $16,346.25 into the General Fund Police Department Other Revenues account 010-2210-6690 from insurance and contributions. Section 5. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $169,000 to be transferred to the Police Department Vehicle account 010-2210-8510 for police cruisers and the sum of $5,350 to be transferred to the Police Department Technical Supplies account 010-2210-8305. Section 6. There is hereby received the sum of $22,313 into the General Fund Administration Department Other Revenue account 010-1110-6690 from Edmonton State Bank for release of deed restriction in Tartan Glen subdivision. Section 7. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $22,313 to be transferred to the Administration Department Grants and Subsidies account 010-1110-8430 for the payment to the Kentucky Housing Corporation for release of deed restriction on the Tartan Glen subdivision. Section 8. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $50,720 to be transferred to the Fire Department Technical Equipment account 010-2210-8505 for extrication equipment. Section 9. There is hereby received the sum of $48,305 into the General Fund Fire Department Federal Monies account 010-2250-6325 from a FEMA grant. Section 10. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $3,100 to be transferred to the Fire Department Maintenance and Repair account 010-2250-8220 for truck repairs. There is hereby received the sum of $3,000 into the General Fund Fire Department Property Sold account 010-2250-6630 from air bottles sold. Section 12. There is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $3,293.85 to be transferred to the Street Department Construction Materials account 085-3310-8320 for supplies. Section 13. There is hereby received the sum of $3,293.85 into the General Fund Street Department Other Revenues account 010-3310-6690 from reimbursement of supplies. Section 14. There is hereby received the sum of $7,301 into the General Fund Park and Recreation Property Sold account 010-6610-6630, and the sum of $9,500 into the other revenues account 010-6610-6690 from sale of property, local grant money, and contributions. Section 15, there is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated general fund the sum of $16,800 to be transferred to the Park and Recreation Contractual Improvements account 010-6610-8535 for park upgrades. Section 16, there is hereby appropriated from the unappropriated sanitation landfill fund the sum of $5,200 to be transferred to the landfill department building maintenance account 085-4430-8530 for HVAC equipment. Section 17, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading March 8th, 2021.
Having heard this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept it?
Motion.
Have a Honeycutt as a motion and a second by
Councilmember Bennell.
Second one by Councilmember Bennell. Is there any questions before we vote on this or any clarification?
Hey, Mayor, on a net outlay with the grants coming from the COVID stuff and the money going out, what is the net effect, plus or minus?
Well, it says a total of 598 went out, and it looks like 573 went in, so it's probably about $25,000.
Okay, thank you.
And that includes the sale of $136,900 worth of real estate.
Right.
So we basically went backwards about $25,000 by making all these adjustments. That includes the insurance on the wrecked cruiser, and that's buying the other not new, but used police cars. So we went back a little ways, but we got a lot of property involved in it too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Armstrong, in section 1, how many businesses were we able to help with the grants?
I think we ran over on that about $18,000 or something like that. We did almost 69 or 70 businesses. I forgot the number, but we had to adjust them backwards. We could not, we had enough money to do what we proposed at about 12 businesses or 15. So we had to, no, it was more than that, about 20. We had to back it up and give the most need a lesser amount of money, but we were able to service every application that we had that was submitted to us in the right format and at the right time frame. Everybody got something. It wasn't what they asked for, but everybody out of 69 or 70 were able to get something. So I felt like we did a good service. It took a lot of work. April and Stephanie and Joe and all of us that served on that review committee, it took a lot of work, but it ended up, we branched out every penny that we got, plus I think it was about 17,000 of the city's money in order to give everybody something in that need group.
I know it was very helpful to those businesses, and I think money well spent for the community. So I commend, as you mentioned, all those that were involved with that. So really good.
We missed a couple, but there was a lot of people that sat on the committee, and we did the review of the applications. But April took the blunt of it, because if you sent her an application and it wasn't correctly filled out, she got on the phone and called you and gave you every chance in the world to come back and do the right thing before that time frame elapsed. So I think it was very successful. It was worth the time spent on it.
Did the finance committee have a hand in that in any way?
There may have been
We did not.
on the finance committee. It may have served on that application committee, but basically it was money in and money out is what it did. There wasn't, we applied for the grant and we got all we could get, and then we went through the process of distributing it, because we didn't get reimbursed until we'd spent it and gave it to the people, and they had to cash the checks before the last day of December to make it work.
Mayor, I got a question. With some of the appropriations we're making, we're halfway through the budget year. Are we on track? Our income isn't matching what our expenses are, so we got to move more money over?
These things were moved because of different, none of these things except the $5,200 and the police cruisers are anything that wasn't budgeted. When they wrecked the police cruiser, we got a check for that. And then we in turn bought 2 or 3 used cruisers to fill that void of what we had. And then we didn't know about the air conditioning unit going out. So that was a budget buster, but there's nothing in here that was not in the budget except for those 2 items. Everything else was considered and put in there. So I'd say as of right now, of course, I'd have to get with Stephanie. I'd say right now, we're probably running pretty well on budget.
So Mayor, you mentioned that those were used cruisers. Are we no longer doing the leasing program for the?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out, Chastity. Do what?
I said, you mentioned that those were used cruisers. Are we no longer doing the leasing program through Enterprise?
Yes, we're still doing the program through Enterprise, but these were cruisers that were, we were short last year, year before last, I think it was year before last too. And what they did was, when that one was wrecked, we didn't have a spare, we didn't have anything. So they went online and found some used ones out west somewhere. And we basically took the insurance money we got out of the one. I mean, everything out there at the police department is not under a rental plan. Most of them are.
Don't be telling the Tartan plan because nobody thought you missed
Yeah, you can, or I can explain it. There's one other item that wasn't in there. It's a pass-through. If you look under there, you'll see Evanston State Bank, I think it was $22,000 and some dollars.
22,313.
14 years ago, when the city developed that section out there, it was sold to a developer that wanted everything done under Kentucky housing financing, where he could get the financing and the people that bought it could be subsidy financed and they didn't have to pay the full payment. And the way that was worded was, it was restrictions on that property that if you took out that Kentucky housing loan and once you had paid it on 15 years, that subsidy would go away. You didn't have to pay it back. But if you sold that house before the 15 years, you had to pay back to Kentucky Housing that subsidy. But the way it was set up, it had to be paid to the city because that's where the restrictions was at. So it was paid to us, and then we in turn turned around and made a check for the exact same amount to Kentucky Housing. That lady had lived there 14 years and 1 month. I guess she forgot about, wasn't aware of it. She stayed there 11 more months before selling it. She wouldn't have to pay that back. So that's what that's about. It's a little confusing, but it was a pass-through because the city actually did that subdivision and sold it to different developers.
What subdivision was that, Mayor?
It's out on Sporan, and it's Highland, not Highland. Yeah, Tartan Glen. It's a back part of the Pritchardsville industrial development.
Okay.
It's that one little pocket there. It's called a Preswick. Is that the street that's off of?
No, it was
Prestwick and then Hume.
Hume.
Hume, yeah, Hume. It's right off of Hume Way, and right across the street from this subdivision is that vacant land that we sold.
It was all part of the same original tract.
Yeah, it was all part of the original tract. It was bought back, 81 or something like that. It was from the Norris Farms. That whole section through there was part of the industrial development.
Okay, thank you. Hey, and back to a question about as far as insurance on leased vehicles or on bought vehicles. I know there's a split in a percentage that everything's not leased, but is there a big difference? And I have no idea. Is there a big difference on the insurance of a leased vehicle or a bought vehicle, or is it pretty much the same at the end of the year?
Premium,
Yeah, or just overall?
I don't know how that fleet, I don't know how the insurance would run on that, Patrick.
Okay.
I don't know either.
I don't know if anybody other than our entry on when we pay on our insurance, we have a blanket policy we pay at the end of the year. I don't know, there shouldn't be any difference whether it's leased or bought. The premium ought to be the same. It's the only thing is the loss payable would be to the lease company if it's leased, and if it's belongs to the city, then the check would come to the city instead of to the lease company.
Okay. Thank you.
So any other questions? Hearing none. We've already got a first and a second, correct? Hearing none. All those in favor of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. First reading of the ordinance passes. The next item, it's short in the introduction to it, but this is about the ordinance on ethical application, which is our code of ordinance that we all sit through the class on. But he's got a summary prepared. He's going to read you the summary. If you want the whole thing, I think it's 42 pages. If you want the whole thing read, I think you'll have to get a throat lozenge for him and then tell him to read it. But he's got a summary to read to you, and if there's any question about it, we'll answer those questions after the summary is read.
Now, there's a few sections in this that I'm reading the entire section because I'm sure that the public is listening to this, and I thought there were sections that they needed to hear to understand what this ordinance is all about. And then there's a few sections within it that I'm reading the entire section because you have to have it all to really understand what it is. And then some of the really short sections I'm reading, but I've summarized. There's actually about 49 sections in there, and I've actually summarized down probably 35 of those at least. So instead of having all those pages, we're probably going to have 8 or 9, which is still quite long. But we'll get through it because it's important. It's necessary for us to be a certified ethics city. So this is my summary. City of Glasgow ordinance number 20-21-blank. An ordinance establishing a code of ethical conduct applicable to the officers and employees of the City of Glasgow and city agencies enacted by KRS 82.082 and pursuant to requirements of KRS 65.003. Whereas the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Kentucky has enacted legislation requiring the City of Glasgow to enact and enforce a code of ethics governing the conduct of city officers and employees. And whereas the officials of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky are committed to the operation of the city government that manifests the highest moral and ethical standards among its officers and employees and desires to comply with all requirements of the Commonwealth's local government ethics law. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Glasgow City Council, the legislative body of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, section number 1, titled, "This ordinance shall be known and may be recited as the City of Glasgow Code of Ethics Ordinance." Section number 2, findings. The legislative body of the City of Glasgow finds and declares a public office and employment of the city is public trusts. The vitality and stability of the government of this city depends upon the public's confidence in the integrity of its elected appointed officers and employees. Whenever the public perceives a conflict between the private interest and public duties of the city officer or employee, that confidence is imperiled. C, the government of this city has a duty to provide its citizens with standards by which they may determine whether public duties are being faithfully performed and to make its officers and employees aware of the standards which the citizenry rightfully expects them to comply with while conducting their public duties. Section 3, purpose and authority. It is the purpose of this City of Glasgow Code of Ethics Ordinance to provide a method of assuring that standards of ethical conduct and financial disclosure requirements for officers and employees of these cities shall be clearly established, uniform in their application, and enforceable to provide officers and employees of the city with advice and information concerning potential conflicts of interest which might arise in the conduct of their public duties. B, it is the further purpose of this ordinance to meet the requirements of KRS 65.003 as enacted by the 1994 Kentucky General Assembly and any amendments made subsequent to that date. This ordinance is enacted under the power vested in the city by KRS 82.082 and pursuant to the requirements of KRS 65.003. There's some definitions in the next section which I have omitted, but the section number 5 deals with standards of conduct, and I have included that entire section also. Section number 5, conflicts of interest in general. Every officer and employee of the city and every city agency shall comply with the following standards of conduct. A, no officer or employee or any immediate family member of any officer or employee shall have an interest in a business or engage in any business, transaction, or activity which is in substantial conflict with the proper discharge of the officer's or employee's public duties. No officer or employee shall intentionally use or attempt to use his or her official position with the city to secure unwarranted or unsolicited privileges or advantages for himself or herself or others. C, no officer or employee shall intentionally take or fail to take any discretionary action or agree to take or fail to take any discretionary action or influence or attempt to influence any other officer or employee to take or fail to take any discretionary action on any matter before the city in order to obtain a personal or financial benefit for any of the following. 1, the officer or the employee. 2, a family member. 3, an outside employer. 4, any business in which the officer or employee or any family member has a financial interest, including but not limited to A, an outside employer or business of his or hers or his or her family member or someone who works for such outside employer or business. B, a customer or client. C, a substantial debtor or creditor of his or hers or of his or her family members. Any business in which an officer or employee or any family member is negotiating or seeking prospective employment or other business or professional relationship. 6, any person or entity from which the officer or employee has received an election campaign contribution or a total of more than $200 during the past election cycle. This amount includes contributions from a person's immediate family or business, as well as contributions from an entity's owners, directors, or officers, as well as contribution to the officer or employee's party committee or non-candidate political committee. 7, a non-government civic group, social, charitable, or religious organization of which he or she or his or her immediate family is an officer or director. Then D, no officer or employee shall be deemed in violation of any provision of this section by reason of the officer's or employee's participation, vote, decision, action, or inaction. No personal or financial benefit accrues to the officer or employee, a family member, an outside employer, or a business as defined in section C 4 to 5 of this section as a member of any business, occupation, profession, or other group to any greater extent that any gain would reasonably be expected to accrue to any other member of the business, occupation, profession, or other group. E, every officer or employee who has a prohibited financial interest which the officer or employee believes or has a reason to believe may be affected by his or her participation, vote, or other action taken within the scope of his or her public duties shall disclose the precise nature and value of the interest in writing to the governing body of the city or city agency served by the officer or employee, and the disclosure shall be entered on the official record of the proceeding of the governing body. The officer or employee shall refrain from taking any action with respect to the matter that's the subject of the disclosure pursuant to section 8 of this ordinance. Now, I'm doing almost a very light summary of most of the rest. Section 6 prohibits city officers and officials from contracts that favor them or their family and friends at the expense of the city. Section 7 is on incompatible offices and prohibits an officer or employee of the city from holding a county office or similar conflicting post. Section 8, an officer or employee of the city must withdraw from any transaction they find themselves in if a conflict becomes evident. Section 9 prohibits gifts above $100 to city officers and employees. Section 10 is on the use of city property, equipment, and personnel. No officer or employee of the city shall use or permit the use of any city time, funds, personnel, equipment, or other personal or real estate for the private use of any person unless the use is available to the general public, and then only to the extent upon the terms that such use is available to the general public. Nepotism prohibited. This is section 11. No officer or employee of the city or city agency shall advocate, recommend, or cause the employment, appointment, transfer, or advancement of the family member to an office or position of employment with the city or city agency. No officer or employee of the city or city agency shall supervise or manage the work of a family member. This is C. No officer or employee shall participate in any action related to the employment or discipline of a family member, except that this prohibition shall not prevent an elected or appointed officer from voting on or participating in the development of a budget, which includes compensation for a family member, providing that the family member is included only as a member of a class of persons or a group, and the family member benefits to no greater extent than any other similarly situated member of the class or group. D, the prohibitions in this section shall not apply to any relationship or situation that would violate the prohibition of which existed prior to the effective date of this ordinance. Section 12, all employees or officers are prohibited from representing anyone before the city or its agencies. Section 13, no confidential information may be used to benefit anyone other than the city. Section 14, political solicitation. A, an officer, employee, or municipal candidate may not request or authorize anyone else to request that any subordinate or potential future subordinate participate or not participate in any political activity, including the making of a campaign contribution. B, an officer, employee, or municipal candidate may not engage in any political activity for the city while on duty or in uniform, using city funds, supplies, vehicles, or facilities in uniform, or during any period of time during which he or she is normally expected to perform services for the city for which compensation is paid. Section 15, patronage. No officer or employee may promise an appointment for the use of his or her influence to obtain an appointment to any position as reward for any political activity or contribution. Section 16, outside employment. An officer or employee shall not accept any employment or enter into any contracts that result in a conflict of interest with his or her duties as an officer or employee of the city. And there's some other conditions like that for employees holding positions other than city employees, and that's detailed in section 16. Section 17, post-employment restriction. No officer or employee of the city or any city agency shall appear before the city or any city agency or receive compensation for services rendered on behalf of any person in relation to any matter with respect to any matter on which the officer or employee personally worked while in the service of the city or city agency for a period of 1 year after the termination of the officer or employee's service with the city or city agency. An officer, this is 18 on fees and honoraria. An officer or employee shall not accept any compensation or honorarium in consideration for an appearance, speech, or article unless the appearance, speech, or article is both related to the officer's or employee's employment or activities outside of municipal service and is unrelated to the officer's or employee's service with the city. Section 19, city employees and officers are not permitted to make endorsements of people or products. Section 20, complicity with or knowledge of others' violations. No officer or employee may directly or indirectly induce, encourage, or aid anyone to violate any provision of this code. An officer or employee knows or has reasonable suspicion. If an officer or employee knows or has reasonable suspicion to believe that someone has violated this code, he or she is required to report it to the City of Glasgow Ethics Board pursuant to Section 38 of this ordinance. No employee or officer may falsely impugn the reputation of other city residents, officers, and employees. Section 22, members of boards and commissions who miss 1/3 of the meetings have violated the code. Social media, section 23. Now, this is something that is pretty predominant. We don't have a lot left to go, but we are going to read this one entirely because it and the email provisions are very important. Section 23, social media. A, city officials, including members of boards, commissions, and so forth, can maintain a personal presence on social media. However, to be considered personal, there can be no mention of their status as a city official. Any mention of their status as a city official potentially changes the nature of the page, requiring record keeping in accordance with the Kentucky Department of Library and Archives retention schedule and subjecting the entire page to open records requests. B, elected city officials who want to interact with the community on social media in their role as city official are required to maintain a separate account. City officials will notify the city clerk of any official pages utilized. The city clerk will maintain an updated list of official pages of city officials. C, city officials shall conduct themselves professionally and as a representative of the city. D, elected city official pages shall clearly indicate that any content posted or submitted for posting is subject to public disclosure. Additional guidelines, if any, shall be posted conspicuously on the page. No comments shall be deleted unless in violation of posted guidelines. Deleted comments shall be provided to the city clerk and must be saved for 1 year. City officials shall not conduct city business through their social media sites. If receiving a specific request from a city, the city official shall state, "Thank you for your question. Please email me at an official email address or contact me at this phone number. I look forward to speaking with you." G, elected city officials shall not discuss issues pending before the city council. Elected officials may, and now here's a word that's going to have an amendment made to it by Councilman Bunnell. Elected officials may elicit public input but shall not respond to comments. Engaging in substantive conversations on social media shall require retention of the post and may violate the Open Meetings Act if other elected officials are also engaging in the discussion. City employees are bound by the city's social media policies in the City of Glasgow Employee Handbook. Now that's the section 23 in its entirety on social media. And that section G will have the amendment to it to change illicit to solicit. Section number 24, email. This one's a lot shorter. City officials shall maintain an official email address and shall provide the email address to the city clerk. This must be separate from their personal email account. No city business shall occur through a personal email account. City officials shall retain emails according to the Kentucky Department of Library and Archives schedule for emails. City officials shall direct any record-keeping questions to the city clerk. Section 25. City officers, candidates, and board members must file financial disclosure statements, FDCs. Section 26. FDCs must be filed by April 15th. Section 27 prescribes the form for filing the FDC. Section 28 says the FDCs will be kept by the Ethics Board for 2 years. Section 29 is an extensive list of items that you have to include on your FDC, and it's all about your business to see if there's conflicts. Section 30 declares that it is a Class A misdemeanor if you fail to file your FDC, and this applies to elected officials such as councilmen and to people who serve on boards. Section 31 creates the Ethics Board 3 members to hear violations in trial type hearings. There is no Section 30 2. Section 33, the city shall provide funds for the board to have a place to operate and store their records. Section 34, the ethics board must meet at least annually. Section 35 defines their powers and duties to hear cases and adopt rules. Section 36 instructs the ethics board to develop training and workshops. Section 37 instructs them to do an annual report and a 5-year review of the code. Section 38 requires the board to receive and investigate complaints should anyone want to file an ethics complaint. Section number 39 provides notice requirements for hearings under this ordinance, and those are usually 30 days. Section 40 establishes procedures for hearings before the city ethics board. Section 41 is procedures for appeals from the board decisions. And section 42 is on the limitation, which is the statute of limitations, which says in its entirety, except when the period of limitations is otherwise established by state law, an action for a violation of this ordinance shall be brought within 1 year after the violation is discovered. Section 43 provides establishing procedures for advisory opinions about matters in question which have not matured into allegations of violations. Section 44 establishes that there shall not be reprisals against whistleblowers who call to attention an ethics violation. And then the final one that I'm obligated to read the entire thing under the statute on written summaries, because this has penalties in it. I have to read the entire section, and that's section 45, and will be the last section that I'll be reading. A, except when another penalty is specifically set forth in this ordinance or by state or federal law, any officer or employee of the city or any city agency who is found by the City of Glasgow Ethics Board to have violated any provisions of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of a civil offense and may be subject to a civil fine imposed by the Ethics Board not to exceed $1,000, which may be recovered by the city in a civil action in the nature of debt if the offender fails to pay the penalty within a prescribed period of time. B, in addition to all other penalties which may be imposed under this ordinance, any officer or employee of the city or any city agency who is found by the Ethics Board to have violated any provision of this ordinance shall forfeit to the city or the city agency an amount equal to the economic benefit or gain which the officer or employee is determined by the board to have realized as a result of the violation. The amount of any forfeiture may be recovered by the city in a civil action in the nature of debt if the offender fails to pay the amount of the forfeiture within a prescribed period of time. C, in addition to all other penalties which may be imposed under this ordinance, a finding by the Ethics Board that an officer or employee of the city or any city agency is guilty of a violation of this ordinance shall be sufficient cause for removal, suspension, demotion, or other disciplinary action by the executive authority of the city or city agency or by any other officer or agency having the power of removal or discipline. Any action to remove or discipline any officer or employee for violation of this ordinance shall be taken in accordance with all applicable ordinances and regulations of the city and applicable laws of the Commonwealth. And that is the final text on that. So adopted. Well, be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow that Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, shall be and is hereby authorized to sign all documents necessary to enforce this ordinance, and that's effective date on passage and publication. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, March 8th, 2021.
Having heard this ordinance or a summary thereof, I have a motion to accept.
Motion.
Kirkpatrick.
Have a motion by Witcher and a second by Kirkpatrick. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Armstrong, I'd like to propose 2 amendments to this ordinance. As the city attorney mentioned, On page 12, under section 23, item G, to remove the word illicit and change that word to solicit would be the first amendment that I would ask on this.
Why don't you do it both in the same amendment, Terry?
Okay, and then the second amendment I have, it would be found on page 17, which is under section 31. On page 17, that's found under item G. And item G, I would like the council to strike the second sentence in that section G, where it's talking about a vacancy. If you remember back when we looked at the ordinance under the Code Enforcement Board, that we removed similar language to that ordinance. And I think that the two ordinances need to be have the same language in them, so clarity of that. And so I would recommend that we remove the second sentence in item G under section 31 relating to vacancy.
I'll second that.
Would, on G on page 12, would you talk about that, Mr. Basil?
That's probably either a typo or issues of words. I think illicit is probably not the right word to use there, and solicit
Okay.
certainly appears to be the meaning that's intended.
Okay. And what about on page 17, likewise?
Okay.
I'm assuming when we went through this with that guy, all of the points that he said they suggested needed to be changed, you made those changes and updated those. Is that correct?
Mona did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, they were already there. He just didn't, he was looking at the wrong one
The old ones.
because the new, everything that he suggested was already in the new one.
So the request for the amendment on page 17 then, is that correct, what Mr. Bunnell is saying?
What Mr. Bunnell is saying is that he does not think that the remaining two members of the board should be able to pick the third member. If we break down and don't pick somebody, he's saying we should try again rather than letting the rest of the board pick a replacement, that we need to keep running people through until we've either decided on somebody or everybody's thrown up both hands and walked away.
We did that on the ordinance board too.
On code enforcement.
Code enforcement, I mean.
See, it's a three-member board.
Yeah.
And if somebody goes off or somebody resigns or moves away, that leaves two. And the mayor would nominate somebody and the council would approve. But it's supposed to be done within 60 days. But conceivably, we could go through a couple of cycles of him nominating somebody, and maybe the council wouldn't like that person, and they would turn that person down. This ordinance as written would give the two remaining board members the right to name the replacement. And that amendment removes that right and leaves it here for us to continue until we name somebody and approve them for that spot. Did I say that correctly, Terry?
You did, spoken well. Thank you, Danny. And I look at it as the responsibility of the mayor and the responsibility of the council to do that, because we are the individuals that are elected by the citizens of Glasgow. It's not up to a sitting board to name its own members to that board. And so for the citizens to have a voice, they speak through us as the mayor and as the city council. So that's why I'm recommending that we strike through that sentence.
Okay, we have a amendment to this ordinance. Do I have a do I have a motion to do the amendment?
Motion. Motion was made by Terry. I'll do a second.
All right, you got that? So the amendment We'll vote on the amendment now. All those in favor of this amendment to the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, similar, like sign. This amendment has passed, and now we need to vote on this ordinance with the amendment in place, correct?
Yes, and they can discuss it more if they want.
If y'all want to discuss it more, we will, because we had a first and a second motion to begin with on this ordinance. So if you want to discuss it more, we will. If not, we'll vote on it as with the amendment.
Call for the question.
Okay, no more discussion. The question's been called for. All those in favor of the ordinance with the amendment added to it or changed to the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion passes. While we've got on this issue here, I've got one thing that I think we need to clarify. If you are receiving emails at your business or at your place of work, and their emails from city business, I would suggest that all of you talk to Stephanie and see if you can't set up an account that would say maybe jtrigg at glasgow-ky.com and have you an email address paid for the city that you can receive and send out information or business about the city instead of coming to your workplace or coming to your other account. And if you agree with that, or if you're in the position where that your emails now come to your workplace, then I think that would be another violation that we need to correct. And I think the city could set that up for each and every one of you, and basically could have that of record here, and you could access it. You'd be the only one that could access it, of course. But if any of you think that you don't have a need for that, that's fine. But if any of you do have a need for it, we'll get with Stephanie and see if we can't set you up an email. As long as you're the councilman, set up an email that'll be directly for the business of the city and nothing else.
Hey, Mayor, I agree with that. If we get an email from somebody with a problem on our business email, I mean, what do we have to let somebody know? Are we in violation? Or if we don't respond to it, how do we do that? If somebody says, hey, there's water standing in my backyard and that's city business on my, I guess my business or my personal email, I mean, I'm all for splitting it up. I just don't know how to respond to someone if they send me a problem on the wrong email, or how do I manage that?
You can if it's on your business email account, you can tell them, please respond, and give them the right email. And once they respond to that.
It's on page 12, section F.
Yeah, but that's what he's asking. But you can respond and say, please respond to pgaunts@glasgow-council-ky, whatever that email address is up here. You can refer them to that.
Okay.
If you get a complaint, there's no law that says you have to answer that complaint, even if it's on your council account. It's a derelict of duty if you don't do it. But if you have it set up where it's directly for your council business, then that segregates everything else, and you can anything that you get that you shouldn't be getting on your other email account, you can respond to that person, please remit to this email. And that way you're not in violation and you're not intermingling and have to keep it for a certain length of time on your personal email.
Okay.
What he's told you there applies to your Facebook account the same way, but we've got a section 24 that's specifically on emails. And I read this a few minutes ago. City officials, you must maintain an official email account and provide that to the clerk, and that has to be separate from your private email account. So whether you do it through the city or do it on your own, it has to be a separate account. and you cannot do any city business on your personal email. And city officials have to retain those emails on your official account, I think for 2 years, but you can direct record keeping questions on that to Mona, but you have to keep those on that city account. You have to keep those. You can't delete them or do anything else with them. And that's why it has to be on an official city email address and not your personal. You know, that's in section 24.
Okay, so, and like the mayor said, if I say, send this to the other account, then do I still have to keep the first one?
Not if you refer them to your official account.
Right, as long as you don't do anything on that email other than tell them to go to the other one, you're okay with that.
You're not taking action on it. You're just asking them to send it to your official account.
Okay, but I could delete that after that.
Yeah, I wouldn't for a while, but because somebody may question it, and then you've got to prove what you deleted. So don't delete it for a while, but you're not held to be accountant for that. But I think, see, I'm not responsible for mine, but I don't delete them anyway. Because I'm a private contractor and it's, you know, not an official account and so forth, but I still keep them. But,
right. So if that's on there.
If you have a computer crash, I had one back in August or September, and when they fixed my computer, it had deleted like 100 emails, but I had to keep a record of that. I had to put the date that he worked on it, and he had to acknowledge how many of the emails that went to somewhere, I don't know, I guess up there. But if you have an official account, it's so easy to track that. It makes it a lot easier for you to back it up. But any of you that would like to do that, I think that we could, one at a time, come in here, and I've talked to Stephanie today in general about it, and I think that would be a wise solution to everybody out there if they did that and had that account to where that she could send all your appointments as far as your committee meetings when they are. Anything that the city clerk's going to send out would go out on that account, and then there shouldn't be a lot of confusion about how to respond. But I think that would clarify that. But all of you that wants to, we can set up something, and you can come in maybe as early as end of this week to try to set that up. I think it would be appropriate for us to do that. And I'd like to congratulate all of you for sitting through the meeting. We are now, you'll have it included in your packet. There's a copy of our certification. Out of all the cities in Glasgow, there were 27 noted on the mail out. So we're one of the 27 cities in the state of Kentucky that are city certified ethical. So ethics certified. So that's something to be proud of. There's a heck of a lot more than 27 cities that's a member of the KLC, but we're one of the 27 that did get certified. So mark that down to pat yourself on the back.
Hey, Dave, can I ask you another question on that email? Is our city council email, is that, and maybe our business one is that defined under open records law? I mean, our city council email, once we get it set up, or is that, how does that transact?
That would be under open records. If one of you all talked to back and forth with an email from somebody that wanted your help to get a contract with the city, and then something happened and they got that contract, and somebody else lodged a complaint against them and said, if Councilman so-and-so hadn't have put them through, they'd have never got that. Well, the councilman didn't talk to them. Well, I want open records. I want to see, because I know for a fact they had emails between them. It would clarify, and it would get you out of a jam in case that happened.
Okay, but they would be subject to open records, whatever that is. What's it's a city council email, which is fine. I just want to make sure everybody knows. So if somebody is filing a complaint, that they know that could be served as open records. If there's water standing in their yard or something like that, whatever it might be.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other? I don't forgot where we're at. We've been on this so long.
We're fixing to do it.
That passed with the amendments, correct? Okay. Now the next item is a resolution authorizing directing April Russell, Director of the Office of Grants and Oversight, to apply for Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Grant.
City of Glasgow Resolution number 2021-blank, a resolution authorizing and directing April Russell, Director, Office of Grant Oversight, to apply for a grant from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, Non-Law Enforcement, to fund the Child Safety Seek Program, Travel and Training for the Police Department. Be hereby resolved of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Number one, that April Russell, Director of the Office of Grant Oversight, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application on the city's behalf with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, for a grant in the amount of $21,230 to fund the Child Safety Seek Program, Travel and Training for the Police Department. This is a non-matching grant. Be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary in order to make application for said grant. So adopted this 8th day of March 2021, Harold Armstrong, Mayor, at testimony sent to the City Clerk.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion, Kirkpatrick.
Motion by Kirkpatrick and a second by second by Neil. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Resolution passes. The next item is another resolution authorizing April Russell, Director of Office Grant and Oversight, to apply for grants.
City of Glasgow Resolution number 2021-blank. A resolution authorizing and directing April Russell, Director, Office of Grant Oversight, to apply for a grant from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, to fund overtime, Lifesavers Conference, and fuel for the police department. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Number one, that April Russell, Director of the Office of Grant Oversight, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application on the city's behalf with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, for a grant in the amount of $43,500 to fund overtime, Lifesavers Conference, and fuel for the police department. This is a non-matching grant. Be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to make application for said grant. So adopted this 8th day of March 2021, Harold Armstrong, Mayor, at testimony sent to the City Clerk.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion by Benel.
Got a motion by Benel and a second by Witcher. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Resolution passes. Going to give you some information. This is just for soaking in purposes. We don't have all the information back, but the county has had a first reading of bonds for $5 million to go toward the infrastructure out at the new South Cooper Industrial Park. And we've been trying to put some numbers together to see how we could share in that or work with it. They've already started the ball rolling. We're getting the numbers back from a bond attorney through Maureen Carpenter. And we're going to try to see if we can suggest that we do $3 million in bonds to put a spec building up out on South Cooper. But we don't have that information as far as to the interest rate and how it'll work. But we will have that information by our next meeting. And I just wanted to put you on alert that we're going to see how that works out, and let Maureen come and talk to you guys about the necessity of having a building out there because of the prospective employers that are looking to locate here and what a period of time she thinks it'll take us to get somebody in that. And then if we do, we can convert that over to another building. And the fact that it's not like a mortgage loan, it's bonds, so we can use it to improve. Once they buy it, we can look to improve another one. But all that information will come through Maureen, and we'll have it available for your consideration at the next meeting. Just wanted to tell you, we've been working on it. We're not putting it by the wayside, but we had to jump through some hoops to decide what the situation is, and we're gonna bring it before the finance committee, so we can dwell on that a little longer before we make it in the form of an ordinance. But that being said, the only
Hey, Mayor, can I ask you a question, Steve, just on that? Is that spec building that's in that new farmland that now will be the new industrial park, right?
Now the Cooper Industrial Park, yes.
Okay. Now, is that in the city? Will it be in the city, or will it stay in the county?
It will be in the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's been worked on since November.
But it will stay in the county too.
Do what?
I said yes, but it will also stay in the county too.
The tax benefits on the county real estate taxes will always be there. That's correct. We're not taking anything away from that. Okay, you have pending appointments in your packet, and I think that you had one that was emailed this afternoon. The ones that were pending that are expiring the end of this month is the airport board and the three that are going back on historic preservation committee. Plus that ordinance says that there has to be a member of that committee off the planning and zoning. We have 2 people on the planning and zoning that have said they might be interested, but we have not got a verification from them back. If we get that back in the next couple of days, there will be one more name that'll be put to historic preservation, and then the next meeting we'll vote on all of these. Plus, there was one that came in today. The Entertain Glasgow wanted to add another member to their board, and is that on? Did they get that by email?
Yes.
So you got that by email this afternoon with her name on the Entertain Glasgow. So our next meeting, those will be completed, or before they'll be completed with this extra name, and they'll come
Mayor?
before the next meeting. Yes?
Mayor? Could you take a look at my committees? I hate to bring this back up, but I'm on 8, and I'm thinking we need to lower that number.
I don't have it in front of me, Marna. Call me tomorrow and we'll look at it and see. Because I had you down for 6 after I took you off these 2. 5 or 6 after I took you off these 2.
Yeah, I'm on 8.
Tonight. So you can call me tomorrow when I've got that in front of me. I've got to look up Chastity's too and make sure we haven't flip-flopped one of those. Left you on and took her off of one. But that'll be, you can call me tomorrow and we'll go over that. Some announcements.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The shredder, free shredder day will be back, let's see, Saturday, March the 20th, 2021 at 9 a.m. till noon at the Department of Public Works. That's employee parking lot at 310 Front Street. Also, not only the shredder, but the medication take back will also be present. Police department or DEA, whoever, will be there to take your medications that you want to get rid of. So that'll both happen on Saturday, March the 20th. And then Glasgow Cleanup Week is starts March the 22nd, goes through the 26th. Be the same days as your pickup, your regular garbage day is. You can put out couches, chairs, everything that normally is picked up, a list for the collectible items, as well as those that will not be accepted. are on the city's website, www.cityofglasgow.org or Glasgow official Facebook page. And I can tell you right now, car batteries, car parts, and paint and tires are not to be picked up that day. So those things for sure are left off the pickup. But furniture, toys, stuff that you want to basically, you normally clean out a garage with or a game room or something other than the car parts will be accepted. Our next meeting will be March 22nd, 7 p.m. under the Zoom, and it can be viewed live on Electric Plant Board Channel 6. And hopefully, by that meeting, we'll be able to decide whether or not we can come back in person meetings the first or the second week in our second meeting in April. So keep your fingers crossed, because it'd be nothing better than to be back up here where we can all be face to face and not have technological problems. But is there any other announcements that would like to be made?
Hey, MD,
Mona?
just one thing. I don't know if we announced it but TJ Sampson won the top 100 rural hospitals in the United States. So that's a pretty nice honor. So just a shout out to TJ Sampson and all their employees, and Neil and Thornberry and Jim Lee and them.
That's correct. Congratulations on that award.
Mona?
Happy, did you say you had an announcement?
Freddie.
Freddie, did you say you had one?
I have a question.
All right.
Does she still need a picture of us with this certification ethics thing? We were asked to get a picture with us holding the certificate. Is that still needed?
Well, I went on and sent them one, with me holding the certification.
Oh, yeah.
They needed one to put on the website. I did that because we are all doing this teleconference style. If we do come back in person, we could go on and take a picture and then send that to them, and maybe they would change it on their website. They have already posted that, and so it is on KLC's website.
Hey, I vote for leaving it with you, Mona.
I would like to have everybody on the city council, when we do back, I would like to have a picture with that sitting in front of the whole council, and we'll put that on our website with everybody.
Yes, that would be good to have everybody who was involved, so we could have that for our own, because with the ethics ordinance, it does state different things that has to be done on the website. It stipulates, so there will be a few changes I will have to make to stay in compliance with that.
Not only the city council, but the people on the committees and the people who joined in that meeting, the ethics board and everybody else. I would like to have all of those in that one picture with that certification, because that'll show how many people participated. But it'll have to be in a live meeting in person, and when we do that, we'll try to invite those 4 people to come also. Any other announcements? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Lowry.
Motion
Second, Happy.
by Lowry, and a second by Councilman Neal. You are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, we should have to